Today in our 2012 Honda CR-V, we're going to be installing Blue Ox's base plate kit, part number BX2258. This base plate is going to give you an attachment point on your vehicle so you can pull it behind your motorhome. It's going to have places for your safety chains, as well as a place to hook up your tow bars. In the middle, it'll have a bracket to hook up your 6-way electrical connector. And it comes with a small bracket that you can mount for your breakaway switch. Now once you've got your base plate installed, you need to hook it up to your tow bars. You'll want to remove the plugs. Then insert your quick adapters. Those just push in and twist until they lock into place. Make sure that you've got it in the correct position. You'll know that based on the sticker located here. We'll slide our pin back in and secure it with the other pin. Here you can see that all the components are well hidden inside the natural openings in our bumper. So everything's going to look very factory-like, even though it's not. It's constructed of steel with a black powder coat finish to help resist against rust. It's easy to install. Let's show you how to do that now. We'll begin our installation under the hood of the vehicle here in the front by removing the 4 push pins located here on the grille. You can use this with a flat-bladed screwdriver or a trim panel remover tool. We'll pop out the center tab first, and then you can pull the pin out after you've removed the center tab. We'll now need to remove the entire grille. You just want to pull outward on it. It does feel a little stiff, but it will pop out. And we'll set this aside. Now on our wheel well, we'll need to remove the 1 screw located here with a Phillips head screwdriver. I do recommend that you turn your wheel to make it easier to get these out. Then we'll need to remove the 2 push pins located here and here. And those pop out in the center just like the ones up top. They look a little different, but they operate just the same. Now we'll pull back on our fender liner here. And there'll be 1 push pin that we'll need to remove. It's hard to see, but for a relative idea of where it is, you'll go forward about right here, and it's right on the other side of this panel. You'll be able to feel the top side with your finger as it goes straight down. We'll pop the center out and remove it just like we did all our other pins. Once you pop the center out, the pin pulls out just like all the others. We'll now repeat these same steps on the other side. Now on the underside of the vehicle, we're going to remove the bolts that are located on the outside with a 10mm socket. We'll get the other one on the other side as well. Then we'll remove the 6 push pins located along the bottom. We'll now pull down a little bit on the lower part of our fascia. That'll allow that to pop out. And then we're just going to work this down, popping it out. We're going to remove the screw here with a Phillips head screwdriver. We'll do this on the other side as well. Now we're going to remove our fascia. It's a good idea to get an extra set of hands. We'll start at the outside by pulling our fascia outward. When you get towards the inside here, you'll see a yellow tab. We'll need to take our screwdriver on the top side and push down on the yellow tab to release it. And we'll do that on the other side as well. Then disconnect your fog lights on both sides by pressing in on the tab here and pulling it outward. We'll now take our fascia and set it aside where it won't get damaged. We'll then prepare our bumper to be removed. You'll want to take out the push pins on top. There's 1 of these on each side. Those just pry out. There's also 1 on the bottom on your passenger side. We'll then need to remove our temperature sensor here. It's pushed in this tab here on the other side. You want to squeeze the 2 pins. Once you squeeze these 2 pins, you can then just pull your sensor right out. We'll then use our trim panel removal tool to pop out the pin located here, as well as the one here on the side. We'll just set those aside. We'll now remove the 4 bolts that hold our bumper on each side. There'll be 1 located on the top, bottom, left, and right side of each of the beams. We'll do this with a 12mm socket. Then remove the 4 bolts on the other side. We can now remove our bumper beam. You have to lift it up off the little tabs on each side. Just a little bit of lift, and then out, and out, and you have to just work it around your AC condenser line there, and we can set it aside as we won't be reinstalling it. On our passenger side, we'll need to trim this ear off here. I've gone ahead and marked where we're going to trim. We'll use a pair of snips to just cut this down. Then we'll need to trim up here. Then on our driver's side, we're going to cut a notch out of it here. We'll now need to trim off an additional amount here. So we'll just continue up. We'll now need to remove the weld nut located here to allow for clearance for our base plate. You can do this with a chisel and a hammer. However, I highly recommend that you use an air hammer, as it'll speed it up and save you a lot of heartache. We'll now need to pop our AC condenser line out of the bracket there. We're just going to move it aside. We can now slide our base plate into position. Each end will slide into the tubes where our bumper used to be. You may need to move that hose out of the way a little bit when sliding it in. We'll now take the 8mm by 30mm bolts that come in the kit, slide a lock washer on it, followed by a flat washer, and we're going to thread that into the existing weld nuts. After assembling your hardware, put some red Loctite on the bolt and thread it into the existing weld nuts where our bumper beam used to be. You'll then take 2 more bolts and the hardware, assemble it, and put it in the 2 remaining holes. We'll repeat that same process on the other side. Now our next step would be to place these bolts through these holes. However, they may not line up perfectly to where you can get the bolt in them. So you may need to take a 1/2-inch drill bit and just clean that up. There's going to be a hole on the side and the bottom. So I'd recommend running these 2 down first with the 13mm socket to verify if it'll line up. If not, then drill them out. Once you verified your holes line up, take your 1/2-inch bolt, put on a lock washer, followed by a flat washer, put some red Loctite on it, and slide it through the hole. We'll then take the nut plates that come in our kit. We're going to go down the end of our base plate, line it up with those bolts, and thread them in. We'll then use the same combination of hardware, place some red Loctite on it, and slide it into the bolt in the bottom up through your base plate. We'll again take our nut plate, go in the end of our base plate, and thread that bolt into it. Then repeat those same steps on the other side. You can now go back and tighten down all your hardware. The smaller bolts in the front you'll tighten down with a 13mm socket. And the larger bolts in the side you'll tighten down with a 19mm socket. As well as a large bolt on the bottom. Now go back and torque all of your hardware to the specifications in your instructions. Now take the end of your handle nuts, use a pair of side cutters to trim these off. I recommend bending it back and forth while squeezing with your side cutters. That just seems to make it easier to get these to break as they are pretty thick. We'll then take our AC condenser line, snap it back into place. Then you want to verify it's not contacting anything. If it is, you can bend the line, just be gentle. Just make sure that there's no contact. We'll now take our ambient temperature sensor and we're going to use the zip tie that comes in our kit to secure that to our base plate. And just cut off the excess. We'll now need to install our safety chain cables. We're going to slide around our frame, come down, make sure that we're not pinching any wires or hoses in between it and the frame. Come out the bottom, come back up, get both of our safety chain loops next to our safety chain tie down point. Use the locking C-clips. Slide that through both of your safety chains. And we'll go up through our base plate and tighten down the nut to secure them. We'll then do the same thing on the other side. Now to finish up your install, you'll want to take your fascia, hold it up, and verify if you need to trim anything. You may or may not, depending on where you're going to mount your electrical components and everything. Once you've completed anything you need to do for your flat toe setup, to reinstall your fascia, just reverse the procedures that we used to take it off. And that completes our installation of Blue Ox's base plate kit on our 2012 Honda CR-V.